Once, in a small village surrounded by dense forests and flowing rivers, there was a man named Obasi, known throughout the village as a brave hunter. Obasi was respected for his skill in the wild and his deep love for his wife, Nneka, who was known for her beauty and grace. Nneka was beloved in the village for her kindness, and her laughter was as bright as the morning sun. She had a mysterious quality to her, an air of quiet wisdom that no one could explain. Obasi and Nneka were happy together, or so it seemed. But as time passed, Obasi began to notice strange things about his wife. Sometimes when the moon was high, Nneka would disappear into the night. Obasi would wake to find her side of the bed empty, and when he asked her where she had gone, she would simply smile and say she had needed some fresh air. Obasi grew more curious, but he loved and trusted his wife, so he kept his questions to himself. But the strange occurrences continued. Sometimes he would find unusual marks on her skin, marks that looked like scales. Other times her gaze would seem distant, her eyes reflecting something deep and hidden. One night, Obasi decided to follow Nneka. He pretended to be asleep, his breathing steady as she quietly slipped out of bed. He watched her leave the house, her steps soft and light as a feather, and he rose to follow her at a safe distance. The night was cool, and the moon cast a soft glow over the village as Obasi followed Nneka through the trees, deep into the forest. She moved as if she knew every path by heart, her steps sure and swift. Obasi's heart pounded as he followed, his curiosity mingling with a growing sense of dread. Finally, she stopped at a clearing in the heart of the forest, a place Obasi had never seen before. The air was thick with a strange scent, a blend of earth and something old, something powerful. Obasi hid behind a tree and watched as Nneka stepped into the clearing and knelt down. She began to chant softly, her voice rising and falling in a language he did not recognize. And then, to his horror, he saw a large snake slither out from the shadows. Its scales shimmered in the moonlight, and its eyes held a strange, unnatural light. Obasi held his breath, watching in shock as the snake coiled itself around Nneka's body. She did not flinch or scream. Instead, she looked at the creature with a deep affection, her hand stroking its scales as if it were a beloved pet. Obasi's heart pounded in his chest as he realized what he was witnessing. His wife was communing with a snake, a creature that the villagers believed was a spirit of the forest, something neither human nor beast. He wanted to confront her, to shout and demand an explanation, but fear held him still. As he watched, Nneka's form began to change. Her skin grew lighter, her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and her legs seemed to merge together, taking on the form of a serpent's tail. Obasi's heart filled with terror as he realized the truth. His wife was not entirely human. She was a snake spirit, a being who had taken on human form to live among them. Unable to contain his horror, Obasi let out a gasp. Nneka's head snapped up, her glowing eyes meeting his. For a moment there was silence, and then she called his name, her voice soft and sad. "Obasi, come forward. There is no need to hide." Trembling, Obasi stepped into the clearing, his eyes wide with fear and confusion. What are you?" he stammered, his voice barely more than a whisper. Nneka sighed, her gaze filled with sorrow. "I am what I have always been, Obasi," she said. "I am a spirit of the forest, a being who was born of the earth and the trees, of the rivers and the wind. I took on this form to live among humans, to experience your world, to know love. But the call of the forest is strong, and I must return to it from time to time." Obasi's mind raced as he struggled to understand. He had loved Nneka with all his heart, and now he was faced with a truth that shattered everything he thought he knew. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice choked with pain. Nneka's face softened, and she stepped toward him, her hand reaching out to touch his cheek. "Because I knew you would not understand," she said. "You would see me as something strange, something to fear, and I did not want to lose the life we had built together. I wanted to love you, to be with you as a human, even if only for a little while." Obasi felt tears sting his eyes as he looked at her, the woman he had loved, who was now a stranger to him. "So all this time, you were hiding this from me?" he asked. Nneka nodded, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Yes, but my love for you was real, Obasi. That is something I will never hide." Obasi looked away, his heart heavy with betrayal and sadness. He did not know if he could ever see Nneka the same way again, but as he turned to leave, he felt her hand on his arm, gentle and pleading. "Please, Obasi," she whispered, "let me show you one last thing." Reluctantly, Obasi allowed her to lead him back to the edge of the forest, where they had shared so many moments together, where they had laughed and spoken of dreams. Nneka turned to him, her eyes sad, yet filled with love. "I will go back to the forest," she said. "I will not trouble you again. But know that my love for you was always true. If you ever need me, you have but to come to this place, and I will hear you." With a final, longing look, Nneka stepped back, her form shifting once again, her body merging with the shadows, until she was gone, leaving only silence and the faint rustling of leaves. Obasi returned to the village alone, his heart heavy with sorrow. He kept Nneka's secret, telling no one of what he had seen. And though he tried to move on, to live as he had before, he could never truly forget her. Sometimes, on quiet nights, he would walk to the edge of the forest and call her name softly, hoping to catch a glimpse of her once more. And though he could not see her, he always felt her presence, a soft whisper in the night breeze, a warmth in the air that told him she was still near, watching over him from the depths of the forest. In time, Obasi became a quiet, reflective man, forever touched by the love he had shared with a woman who was part human, part spirit. He told no one of his secret, but the villagers noticed a change in him, a sadness in his eyes that they could never quite understand. And so, the tale of Obasi and the snake spirit became a whispered legend, a story of love, mystery and loss. The villagers spoke of the man who had loved a spirit and of the forest that had claimed her, and those who heard the story knew that some loves were destined to last beyond the bounds of life and death, woven into the fabric of the earth itself.